you guys, we have a federal government. We also have a state governments, right? And you guys know there's 4 U.S. territories. We're not a state, but at the same time, we're still part of the United States. So what has occurred is that in the federal government, which President Trump is the chief executive officer, our president, he gets an attorney general and he appoints the attorney general. The president appoints an attorney general. In most of all the states, all the 50 states and the territories, they're mostly elected. The only thing is that in like California and the big states, they don't just have an attorney general that has criminal and civil work that they do. They break it into counties. You guys may have known that if you've been in the states, like a district attorney, and then you have or county attorney, and then you have their main attorney general that's elected. So the smaller ones, there's about 4 states that have, like we have on Guam. The attorney general is the chief prosecutor and also does all the civil work, you know, advises the government departments, that sort of thing. So what we have discussion for today is covering primarily the criminal side. It's like where the major is, he's handling a lot of the people that, the enforcement of our criminal code, okay? Most of the statutes are in Title IX Guam Code Annotated. I don't know if you guys have looked into that part of it. Pretty simple, our Guam Code Annotated. I think we're up to 22 volumes. But that's what we as lawyers do, okay? You guys, and congratulations for getting to a higher education level, going past high school. So the first topic of substance abuse. Do you guys, what is your understanding of substance abuse?
That there's a difference between substance misuse and abuse.
Right? So yeah. you have a substance, right? Mm-hmm. And it's a chemical usually, right? You have the synthetic chemicals that they make, and then you have the natural chemicals that, like the pharmacist prescribes. So when they talk about abuse, it doesn't have to be, you know, meth or the synthetic drugs that we know that are illegal and that have no value. It could also be alcohol. You can have alcohol as a drug. My dad's a pharmacist. You know, I got this all my life. So it's a drug, and it really comes down to the person on how people use the drug. Drugs have a good side and they have a bad side. You know, I like to use this little tidbit about, if you talk about methamphetamine, do you guys have any idea when meth was first developed?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I did a project on this. This was, during, I don't know, World War something?
Perfect.
And what's his name? I forgot.
It's called Hitler.
Oh, Hitler?
Well, it was Germany, and you know the Germans are at the top of the line on most everything. You talk about equipment, you talk about chemistry, cures. The German people have been the forefront of many things. And the first use of amphetamine, it was called Prevatin. And it was the German scientist and pharmacist that developed a drug. And like in the Philippines, people don't realize that. Does anybody know where the .45 slug came from on the bullet? It was from the southern Philippines. One of the reasons why it was developed was for the bullet to be big enough so that it could drop the enemy. Because what were they doing before they went into battle? They were doping themselves up. And when a person takes a substance like methamphetamine, amphetamine, these types of synthetic drugs that the pharmacists put together, it makes you like a Superman. It makes you feel and act more powerful. And what normally stops a person is pain, right? When they feel the pain, that's when they they usually stop or deal with the pain. When you're doped up, you don't feel it. You're in a state of nirvana, some sort of a state where you can actually keep going. You're going to die. But I mean, you'll still fight and kill somebody else. That was the idea of the soldiers. And going back to amphetamine, the methamphetamine, it was Battle of the Bulge that the German government, in a time of war, was doping up their people, their soldiers, in order to fight battles. And you know that if any of you know history, the Battle of the Bulge was truly where the Germans almost pushed back the Allies. It was one of their last push to defend the homeland of Germany because the Allies were getting close. They gave it to their soldiers. But what the pharmacist realized was it was creating addiction. You guys have to realize that the substance abuse problem that we have on Guam, it's not the fact that you're taking it, it's the fact that you're becoming mentally addicted to it. Once you've changed your behaviors, your life is messed up. Your ability to think And as you guys probably know, if we focus upon the substance abuse, which we know to be methamphetamine, it starts to change the way that you think from the moment that you take it. And it transfers from, I'm taking it because I make the choice and I want to have this feeling, to I need it, I want it, I'll do anything to get it. Once you've crossed that line, it becomes much harder to fix people. And that's the problem that we law enforcement are seeing and throughout the entire nation. But it started with a drug that was developed by the Germans in order to win a war. And they realized that it was destroying their soldiers as much as it was making them better soldiers in the field. So from Guam's perspective, and that's why we take the positions that we're taking at the AG's office, because what is the Attorney General? The Attorney General is, my primary job is to enforce the laws that are passed by the legislature. And the legislature has said, as with many legislatures, there's categories of substances that you just are not allowed to take. Now, remember too, this is a bit of philosophy, I don't know if you guys have had it. The philosophers talk about virtue lies in the middle, okay? And it's just part of trying to understand what human nature is about. Anything in excess is usually bad. It doesn't matter what it is. And you guys can use examples of things, either substances or behaviors. Virtue lies in the middle. You're best off when you don't go too far either way. So in terms of the drug, the people that are selling it has its own type of group, and the people that are using it has its own type of behavioral things that we observe in law enforcement. We know that it's highly addictive, so from a law enforcement view, we need to enforce the law, which is you can't take it. It's a third-degree felony for possession. For selling it becomes a first-degree felony. Distributing, right? We call it the distributors. Everybody doesn't like the dealers, and for the users, you're trying to be compassionate to them on the one hand. We don't have that luxury when you're dealing with triage, when you're dealing with so many people on the road that are out there. And what is the end of the equation? We're enforcing the law.
That you're gonna.
What is it? What is the?
Sorry, homelessness?
See, that's one of the consequences of that. But the consequences for the major and myself is to protect the crime victims, to protect you out there. It's not a matter of, hey, this is a violation of the law and I'm going to put you in jail because the legislature says it's a third-degree felony. It's really to separate those people that voluntarily chose to take meth from law-abiding people and separate them because their behaviors become uncontrollable. The ability to rehabilitate a person becomes less and less when they've taken more and more of that substance. Okay? And I think every social worker on Guam will tell you, once an addict becomes an addict, it's not about just going through a 18-month program at adult drug court. They're not publishing the actual results. Those people that graduate from adult drug court, it's a lifelong process. And they call it recidivism rate, right? Mm-hmm. What happens when you go through the program, you're committed. It's like any substance, alcoholism, right? They talk about falling off the wagon. That's usually what they talk about with alcoholics. It's a substance, it's addictive, but it's nowhere close to being as addictive as meth. One part of meth, and that's why we put it all together like that, one part of meth is your voluntary act. At some point you lose control of the substance. And once you've lost control, you've lost control. Anyone that's ever known a meth addict knows that you can't, you're like a vampire. I like using that example. Once the vampire is bitten, they're going to bite you, whether you like it or not, because they need to survive, right? That's the whole legend of the vampires. And I have to thank my staff, and I just sent them a message. If you watch the Department of Justice presentation by President Trump, they're doing exactly now what we're doing. They're talking about how and President Trump was even talking about it. Yeah, they're starting to talk about it. The dopey, the losing the teeth, right? And he even said it. For all the women out there, the people, your teeth is part of that pheromone that, you're attracted by looks, right? That's the first thing that people see. Well, that ain't going to get you, a boyfriend, a girlfriend. But it's taking away from the fact to scare people into compliance and just basically say, you've got one foot in the ground. Once you start taking meth and once you lose control, your body starts to shut down. I'm sorry, guys. I see you're over there.
Do you
Feel,
guys want to come up here?
if you guys want to come over here, it's probably, if you have any questions too, just ask. But my point is, ladies and gentlemen, is that, I'm not by all means close to being a professional in medicine or in the behavioral sciences, but we see it from the law enforcement side. So in enforcing the law, why is it that in the newspaper you're seeing the cops being able to find all these meth addicts? They're pulling them over on the road. Why are they pulling them over on the road so much? Does anybody know why?
Like what?
The meth addicts. Yeah, it goes from getting a pullover to getting found with possession of meth to getting arrested and to get brought into our office. So we have the...
I think one example would be like super obvious. I don't know. They're like not driving.
That's exactly right. You see, and usually it's DUIs. When I was growing up, it's usually the DUI that people get caught on. But the same effect of what you get from a DUI, you get with a meth addict times 10. Because not only are those people unable to drive the vehicle, they're delusional. A drunk driver is usually, he just can't see right, he's inebriated, right? But it's not changing his brain like the meth is doing. The meth, and that's why you can ask the major here, you see every spectrum of what happens as meth is beginning to destroy the person, from the early meth addict to the later to the absolute pothead or the meth head. And I think what we've seen, when the officer gets you out of the car and then he's looking at, first of all, the eyes, right? You can't focus on the eyes, but then they become jittery, because they become delusional about the situation that they're in, and then they start scratching themselves or they start dancing in a circle. It's just bizarre what you're seeing with these people, and it's because of the meth addiction. You don't see that with drunk drivers. Drunk drivers are just basically stupering and slurring their voices, their words and stuff like that. So there's so many meth addicts out there that almost every day we're getting these reports where they're being picked up on that thing. And what's scary is, on a drunk driver, you don't find a gun in their car. With the meth addicts, they all got guns. And they use the gun in order to protect their stash, to get their money. It's everything that they would do in order to hurt somebody. So to give you I'm trying to give you some real life examples of what has gone on. And if we take just the past year and a half, you guys remember the tourist, the Korean tourist?
Yes.
I think it was 2020, it was 23, went into 24. That was maybe a December 2023 thing that occurred. And by the way, first of all, shout out to your police force, the Guam Police Department. Since I've been the Attorney General here, all these cases have been tracked down, investigated, and they actually find somebody. In the past years, you get these open cases, these dormant cases, and stuff like that. But I've noticed that under the Major's leadership, as well as Chief Ignacio, Steve Ignacio, they have consistently brought in somebody and gotten the investigative, especially with your labs here and stuff like that. They've been bringing in these criminals. The Korean tourist situation was a meth addict situation. That's what the evidence is showing. Now we're in the process of going through your criminal justice right to prove innocent until proven guilty, get your day in trial. But the evidence is showing that, first of all, it was meth related. Okay? 2 guys, meth related. Traditionally, the best place to get people with money is the tourist. Now with the electronic stuff, you're not going to get as much money because everybody's got a credit card or Apple Pay or something. But so they go after a Korean tourist. He's walking on the side of the road with his wife. Guy goes up to her, and actually them, and demands the money, has the gun out. Normal robbers, they don't kill people because they know the consequences, and maybe they're not that type of people. What they do is they beat them up or hit them in the face or do something to grab the money, because all they want to do is grab the money. They're probably repeat offenders. They know that it's easier to get off on some sort of an assault type of theft versus hurting somebody. Once you use that gun and you discharge it and you shoot somebody, not only are you facing potential death, of the murder charge, all the other things that go with it. So this situation, they drive up to the individuals, threaten the money, want the money. He's got his gun out. Do you think a meth addict knows how to shoot? No. They're jittery, they're paranoid, you don't know what the hell's going through their brains. So what happened in the situation? The normal reaction. The husband with his wife wants to protect his wife, and somehow he resisted. So the meth addict shot him in the stomach. I think he got a few $100s from him, or he was able to get whatever cash they had on him. So the wife is tending to the husband, the guy gets back in the car, a manhunt ensues after that. Does anybody know what happened to the guy that shot the tourist? What? He shot himself. The police were able to get the proper lead to track him down, and he shot himself. That's what the police report indicates. First thing I did when I heard about that is I pulled the file and I started looking at it in terms of who this person was, what was his makeup. So I was interested, was he one of those repeat offender hardcore ones? Did he have a background in drug abuse and stuff like that? And he did. He was, I think it was an ADC-1 candidate, hadn't started something of that nature.
ADC-1 candidate.
Right, adult drug court. So under our statutes that we're talking about, meth possession is a third-degree felony. The legislature has said if it's nonviolent, you have a right to ADC-1, adult drug court 1. There's an adult drug court 1, adult drug court 2. The 2 is for those that may have gone through 1 and are eligible for a 2 versus the violent ones. The violent ones and the drug addict or the drug dealers, they don't offer those 2. Basically, it's parameters of rehabilitative efforts that their Guam legislature has said you can avail yourself to. The good thing about ADC-1 is at the end of the process, if you graduate, it gets wiped off your record. So when you try to get a job, nobody's going to worry about your priors. So, nice program, but actual implementation is something else. So with the person that shot this individual, what I saw from the file was a person that was eligible for ADC-1 and that was young and that was not the normal person that you would see graduating right up from drug possession to murder. That's usually not the normal criminal. It usually something brings them to that point. And we're all locals here. And that's when I looked at the individual to try to make the makeup, they were just like you and me. They probably went to a high school with a lot of popular people, went through church. One of us on Guam, this is not the states where you have the big cities. We know each other for the most part. Mm-hmm. So what did it say to us that when the police found him, that instead of doing the, hey, you caught me, take me in, let me go see the judge, I want to get a lawyer. What did he do? He shot himself. Cops were on his car, and he shot himself. Why would he have shot himself?
Is it both? Is it because he knows, the consequences?
Everything you guys just said here
Is it just all?
is a possibility. I think he shot himself because he felt guilt.
Oh, really?
He didn't have a background of being a hard criminal. He had the opportunity for adult drug court. What caused him to go with his friend and go and rob somebody? It was the desire, the need, the addiction that he needed to have that drug and would do anything to have that drug. That's why the family members normally kick him out, and that's why a lot of those homeless encampments, and when we did that one back in 2023, March of 2023, I sent my investigators to go case those homeless camps to find out, first of all, if there's any kids in there, so we're going to grab the kids out first, and then to take a look at it, who were in there. And what they found a lot of were the syringes, the meth pipes, things like that. And I've known several people that are family members of meth addicts. The first thing the family does, get the F out of the house. Because when you go to work, they're rummaging through all the jewelry, they're taking things and quietly selling it off so that they can buy their meth. Another thing, by the way, a little digression on the cars thing. A lot of these guys are also getting pulled over because of changed license plates, of registrations that are off. So the basic police officers out there are quickly reading the license plates, calling it in, doing whatever they're checking, finding that car has probable cause to pull it over. They pull it over, and what are they finding? They're finding the meth addict with the guns and stuff like that. In the meth community, there's this you know, these guys, they quickly become, they get fired from their jobs, they have no more resources, they're stealing from everybody around them, but they still need their meth. So what are they doing? We've had cases where they literally steal the mom's car, take the mom's car, who's an older person, relied upon that person to, you know, do the groceries, take care of her and stuff like that. They sell the car to another meth dealer, addict, whoever it is that can supply them. And it's usually, what would you call it? It's called they use it as security. That I'll let you use this car, you give me that meth, and when I pay you back, you give me the car back. Well, it's not usually going down that way. So you've got these cars that are being transferred from person to person. They're not necessarily stolen. What happens is the family member stole it from another family member, or took it, trusted with it, took it, and then gets it to somebody else so they can get the meth. But they'll never get the car back because the other guy's probably doing the same thing for his meth, stuff like that. If you see the picture, you're seeing the total deterioration of their lives. From their parents wanting them out, nobody trusting them anymore, taking these vehicles, getting stupid. You're getting to get caught because the cops, you change that license plate, and what they're doing is they think they're smart enough to take the license plates out and then put another one on. Well, the first thing the cops do, if they haven't reported the license plate stolen, they look at the plate and they look at the car, and if it's too different, you're going to get pulled over. So that's a segment of people out there. But I'm telling you, as recently as 6 months ago, I've got the Agate precinct calling me up, telling me that what do we do in a situation where they literally took a piece of paper and put the license plate number on the back. And first of all, after I stopped laughing, you know, it's just kind of, the officer asked me, what do I do? You know, you're gonna have to charge the guy because but it shows how these people that are getting the meth, they've lost touch of reality, thinking that you're not gonna get pulled over by just putting that piece of paper on the back and trying to put a license plate. I think they were trying to copy the, you know, when you get those temporary things from the car dealers,
Yep.
they were trying to do some stupid thing like that on it. So, but the sad thing is that these people are dying. And that Korean tourist, the family, and he was retired. A couple, they retired. The family literally paid for a ticket to Guam for a vacation package, sent their grandmother, their mother to Guam to enjoy a vacation, and they ended up having to do the funeral for the grandfather. And you know what he was? He was a nuclear physicist. He was one of the people that ran their nuclear program for those nuclear reactor generators type things. You know, it destroys everything about the persons. This environment that we grow up in, we like to call ourselves compassionate. You know, this island culture, we're very forgiving and loving and stuff like that. How would you guys deal with the meth addict?
Sometimes you just can't go that way. You can't be sympathetic.
You see, this is why people think that I am too hard on people.
I was just gonna get to that. Like a lot of people, even from like my other classes, they're like, so I always have like this little small debate with them, either in class or outside class. I'm like, yeah, you guys, I was even talking to my dad about it. I'm like, okay, you guys hate like what he's doing with this or with Leon Guerrero. It's silly with the whole, you know, like that platform where Crown Bakery is. But then like truly guys, like if you think about it, this is Doug's second term, but this isn't his second time running for office. So yeah, you know, like facts don't care about your feelings and stuff like that. But truly, like if he was that mean, I mean guys, he gets death threats. It's just me talking to them. He gets death threats every day. If someone was to either threaten me, threaten my family, I'm like, dude, peace out. Because my son means everything to me. And you have kids, you have Brandon, you have Bliss.
Right.
So I'm like, if this guy really, truly does not like Guam or hate Guam, why would he put himself in a position where one, yeah, you're not both of you guys aren't the most popular people in Guam. You and both Lou. But then it always goes back to, oh, Doug Moylan's doing this, showing that.
Right. And
then it's like, no, guys, but would you? Like, it truly takes a
It requires a higher level of analysis. So what Bettina is saying here, you have to, first of all, you got to realize what position you're in. The governor is in charge of the executive branch. AG is just in charge of law enforcement. If everybody does their job, the system works. So for purposes of the AG's office, we're not the therapists. We're not the adult drug court, because that's the court's job, is to process these people that are eligible. The Attorney General's office is law enforcement, and we have to make sure the laws are being enforced, but we're also attorneys. So the idea with being an attorney is you got to outthink the other guy. You got to find out what is the best way to solve our problem, because in addition to that, we're all Chamorros, we're all locals, we're all Guamanians.
So you guys are the mean guys, while Lou over here is like, because she doesn't do the law enforcement and all those stuff, she's the nice one.
So we're
That's why
trying to
people favor
convince,
her.
right.
And that's why I'm just like, guys, no. Put yourself like, he's
Exactly.
Actually, if he didn't care about Guam, like, I don't think he would do this 3 times. As in
Right.
run 3
Right.
times.
So the idea is that when you guys, if ever you guys have had the fortunate or unfortunate chance of having to deal with a lawyer, either you're getting a divorce or in a fight with your neighbor or something, who do you want to be your lawyer? Do you want the guy that is the most popular guy on the block to go into court and to convince you as jurors that you should win? Or do you want the meanest dog in the kennel, the pit bull, to go out and not let go until you tell him to let go?
Known for
So,
being hardcore.
right, so, and that's why you have an attorney general. The attorney general isn't a senator that does a certain function, passes laws, listens to everybody, put them all in a huddle and start talking to one another. The attorney general is given the walking orders by the people, protect you, keep the criminals away from you, and to make sure that everybody follows the laws. Because the idea is that when the legislature passes a law, it's supposed to be good for you, right? You've got the legislator and you've got the governor both agreeing that this is the law. But without the police department, without the attorney, without the law enforcers in our community, you're not going to benefit from that law. And that's why I always go back to, what is the purpose of this position? The purpose is to enforce the law. That's like your parents. Sometimes you don't agree and it gets harsh. Corporal discipline, disciplining, whatever the case is. When you have the governor, she's in charge of mental health. She's in charge of Guam behavioral health, public health. A lot of these people, there's also something to be said about drugs. The drug doesn't make the person bad. Cause and effect, right? Yeah. Is it the drug that makes a person bad, or is it those bad choices you've made in your life that put you susceptible to take a drug and then to voluntarily take it, and then you were here and now you're going straight down because the drug has made it worse for you? That you didn't choose to go to GCC, that you didn't choose to graduate from high school, that you didn't choose to study. That's why it's difficult to understand how to fix the problem. And it takes time. And when you take the drugs, it's a lot more time to fix you. When I was on the campaign in 2022, there was a guy that was probably in his 60, 65 years old that literally came, because they already knew that I was against the drug addicts and the drugs, and that was going to be my position going in if they elected me. He literally came up to me, in addition to me doing that number, he basically said that what you're saying is right. He was a lifelong recovering drug addict. And he talked about how at this point of his life, and he's probably about 70, he talked about how in his 20s he was dealing with heroin, how he got out of it for a while, then he got married, then he got divorced, he was depressed, then he went back into the drugs, and then he didn't come out for another 10 years, and that how he felt he was lucky to still be alive. That's the type of social service problems that people face. And it's not new. We know that all these different drugs through the centuries in human history have had consequences, a cycle that people go in and out of. So that's the type of things we're facing with when we talk about meth kills. The idea, by the way, of this, we came up with this team that you see in here came up with this, because we figured we were all at a table and we said, what's the most direct thing that we should tell people? Not that you're going to go to jail for the first offense for up to 5 years or something for possession. Not that you're going to go to DOC and it's a really hard place to live, or you're going to embarrass your family. You're going to end up dead. That has nothing to do with what I'm going to do to you. That has something to do with what you're going to do to yourself. And the studies show that. You know, with that meth, because it's not going to let you go. And what happens is the body slowly starts to shut down. Every organ, and again, my dad's a pharmacist, so I got to listen to this all my life. But I mean, the drugs and food have an effect on you. And you see with Kennedy, the HHS secretary, Robert Kennedy Jr., he's doing something very interesting that they should have done during COVID. He's starting to raise that debate out there. When you go to the fast foods, when you go to all these licensed places that sell us food, what are they putting in that food? And how does it affect your body? We already know that, you know, saturated fats and all these type of fried food, sugar, the organs don't like that. When you're young, it's easy. You can take as much sugar as you want, and you're just going to burn it off naturally. As you get older, the body doesn't react that way. It starts to, you're more susceptible to heart attacks, kidney failure, diabetes. Guam, terrible. Diabetes is a huge problem on Guam. The problem with diabetes is once you got it, every organ in your body starts to be affected by it. That's just eating foods. So your lifespans, and Chamorros don't live that long. They're finding that, you know, as opposed to the States, you see a lot of American Caucasians, they live to their 90s. And 100 is kind of normal for certain parts of the United States. Yeah, on Guam, like my family, the Chamorro side, it's like 70s. You see a lot of them. But then you get to the quality of life too, right? Do you want to be having dementia ridden? Most of your once you hit 70s, even as low as 50s, people are starting to get dementia. Or do you want to live a good, healthy life? This goes back to that nutrition thing, right? Kennedy, how he's telling Trump, stop eating those McDonald's, stuff like that. But that was this approach here, okay? This is what actually came off of the internet on different conditions of what people are going through. The dentist represented Dr. Sewell. Years ago, we had a case in court, and the guy was suing the dentist, Dr. Sewell, great surgeon, because his implants kept falling out. So he says, you must be malpractice. The dentist, you're selling a bad product, you don't know what you're doing. When the experts were put on the stand, once you start taking drugs, and it doesn't matter what drug it is, but if it's a lot of those narcotics and stuff, that is the first sign that you're going to end up dead, is when your teeth start falling. It's your body's rejection of the drug. That's what's going on, is the deterioration of your organs, and you need every organ. You can't go down to AutoZone and buy a replacement. So as your organs deteriorate, you're getting closer to the grave. This is for the kids, basically. Yeah. Because we know that because of the Guam Police Department is doing a great job. The juries are convicting these people. What's happening to those meth addicts out there? And the judges are finally getting it. The two categories of people that are the worst offenders on Guam, they're our biggest problem: repeat, reoffend, catch, release, and reoffend. Those three words are critical to law enforcement. We catch them, we put them in jail, and then they're let out. The judges are finally understanding it, that when the juries convict, you got to keep them in there. So what happens when the drug dealers see that their profits are going down? What's the first thing they're going to do? Because we're locking up all their guys.
Does that have to do with like the supply and demand thingy?
Supply and demand. That's exactly right. It's economics. Everything in life is about economics. It's about people acquiring resources, right? That's why you're here. You're hoping that when you graduate, you're going to get a good job, right? Same thing with the drug dealers. They're looking at how much product can I bring in, what price can I sell it, what's my profit margin. When you start locking up all their customers, who are they going to go for next? The kids. That's why we're at the schools, because the studies also show that the more educated you are, the less likely you're going to take the drug. Because you know that taking the drug has a consequence. Not that I'm going to catch you or that the police are going to catch you, but that it's going to destroy your ability to get a job, keep a job, and then eventually it's going to kill you. That's why their next customers are the kids. So how would you normally do it? You get some kid to go in there, and we've seen it in family court. The problem with family court, you don't see what goes on in family court. It would make you cry to see what's going on right now in Guam. The beautiful children, the good mother and father that go to church with us. You see how meth grabs them. They no longer are functional. Kids haven't eaten for days. Kids are in the jungle areas with guns next to them, told by the father, shoot anyone that goes on that ranch. No water. Kid, can of beans with a screwdriver in it. Kid punched the screwdriver as a 5-year-old. Punched a screwdriver in, was putting his finger in as the cops came up on that ranch area because they were following the mother who was a drug addict. That's what CPS is seeing, but we can't tell anyone out there because it's in family court. And in that case, they actually charged it. We charged it, the AG's office charged it, the parents, because it was criminal conduct what they're doing. But the kids, to see the inhumanity of it. And guess what happened in that case? Because I was appointed to one of the kids.
What?
2 members from the military came, and they're beautiful kids. There were 3 of them. It's like 3, 4, and 5-year-old, no clothes on them when the cops came into the jungle area. The military, there's a lot of caring military families that come to Guam, and they become foster parents. Literally, Judge Ingalls hit the gavel down after trying to help the parents get off of the drugs so they can get their kids back. She severed all their rights, and those kids are now growing up in California or someplace in the States. But beautiful children that should not have been taken away from our people because the parents couldn't deal with the meth that was going on. It's literally, they can no longer think anymore. And Dr. Nine, remember Dr. Nine? He was our pathologist, our medical examiner. He did a report, I think it was for 2023. Right, 2023. It's on our website, by the way, if you look at the releases, the Dr. Nine report. He said that 1 in 17 bodies that he autopsied had meth in it. So, and he was shocked by that, and he was expressing it to then Oversight Chair Speaker Chalahi, and we were in the room. 1 in 17, what does that mean to me? But he said for a population our size, it showed that, and he even said it in the room. I think we had maybe 30 people in the room. He says, one of you guys is on meth right now. So I looked at my attaché. But I mean, that is the probabilities. When the medical examiner says that he's got a body there, that's usually about 30 years old, somewhere in their 30s, that has, they're being autopsied, and then he detects meth in it. Does anybody know what meth most affects on your body than anything else?
Is it your brain?
No.
Your heart.
Your heart. You should pull up, there's a video online, SNL, when they're making fun of the meth addicts that are on meth, and how they're kind of running around and all jittery, and what was that one? Do you remember which one that was?
You watched it? I quit watching SNL. Scratchy.
Yeah, everything that the police you see in the newspapers don't really describe it as good, because the journalist literally has to kind of read at the police report. But the cops are very good at describing exactly what was a probable cause, why this person was being arrested for possession. That skit was showing how active they are, and they're just, you guys ever hear about meth addicts staying up for 48, 72 hours?
Yeah.
So what part of your body would be most affected by that if you have no sleep? It's your heart. So Dr. Nine, made it basically known in our community that when and this isn't just for us, anyone that's on meth, eventually you're damaging your heart. And you guys probably know that once you damage the heart, you can't fix it. You're born with 100% pumping capacity. As you grow old, your pumping capacity becomes less and less. And heart attacks normally happen for people that have eaten a bad life, or carbohydrates, whatever. You're the culmination of everything you've done in your life. And the least thing that you can fix is the heart, because you can't increase the capacity. Once your heart's been damaged a certain amount, it just becomes less and less capable. Okay? Good science we have out there, but not enough to regenerate the heart. We're always talking heart transplants, but then the body rejects the heart that comes in and all those problems. The point is, a meth addict that continues to be a meth addict will die shorter than when they would have lived had they not taken the meth. So even those people that stop in their 30s after taking 10 years of meth, if they could have lived to 80 years old, 70 years old, they're probably going to die at 60 if not
It's like
55.
they technically took off like 10 years off their life.
That's right. Meth took away from them life, and life is precious. You know, and as you get older, you realize how precious it is. You want more time. You're trying to, you know, see your grandkids and all those things. Everything that you want to enjoy in life, meth takes away from you. And that's why we detest meth addicts or meth dealers, because they're the ones selling it. But I don't look at it that way. This is a voluntary act by people, because you don't have to take meth, but you choose to take it. That's why all this kind of, let's hold their hands, let's be compassionate to them. Sometimes you need to be taken to the abyss and see what hell looks like in order to not want to be there. Or you have to be in hell to know, I want to get out of there.
You know, there's some, like, it's really close to home, but I know, like, two who, like, even if you show them hell, they rather have the meth.
Right. But you see, this is where it takes, this is a behavioral science type of issue. And I think the best science is live with the meth addict, know a meth addict, and then you're going to see that person transform from being who you knew them as to somebody that you no longer recognize. All they want to do is take something in order to get more meth. And that's the drug dealers. But I mean, you know, increase the price. That's why, you know, this whole roundabout that we're going, it's got to be coming in through the Port Authority of Guam. There's no way that the price can be so low in the quantity. The post office, 2024, they're federal, right? They're postal inspectors with their limited group and their dogs and stuff. All your packages, meth addicts are so stupid that they're going to send it through the mail. So 185 pounds of meth, 185 pounds of it was confiscated by the Postal Service, the feds, in 2024. You know how much meth they found at the port? Less than half a pound. That's bullshit, excuse the language.
Oh, yeah.
Because we, the police officers and the AG's office, the price is too low. It's coming in, and it's not coming into somebody's baggage. The quantities are coming in. When you hear Jeff's Pirates Cove, and I got called on it, and he says that I found packages on my beach, could you get down here? They're doing it on the port. It's coming in through those container ships. They're probably in the container seals, customs. 150 container seals, they have to lock the containers when they're loaded in California and they're shipped to Guam. 150 of them a month are having numbers that don't match up. You got the general manager at the port, you've got the customs director saying, oh, it was just one number off. Are you kidding me? So what they did was they cut the lock, and then they weren't even smart enough to get the numbers straight on what the bill of lading said. So their numbers are off. If you look at YouTube, just about 2 months ago, the Department of Justice attorneys at the FBI and the Department of Justice, it's on YouTube. They specifically detailed what's going on with Guam at Long Beach. They talked about and those guys over there were the Chinese, they're putting fentanyl and counterfeit goods in those containers. And it was a big bust in Long Beach. Chinese guy had already gone back to China before they could catch him, but they got the consolidators that were part of that group. Those guys, they cut the seals, and they got the numbers right, but they knew they were counterfeit locks. Guam has meth coming in it. The only way you're going to defend against these guys is just to say no to the dealers. Once they stop the economics of it, once they stop the profitability of it, they're going to stop doing it, bringing it in. That's the type of way that you guys have to start thinking. First of all, protect yourselves, protect your kids especially. And the best way to protect your kids is to just educate them. You know, give them that, because kids do pick up on this stuff. I think it was the Reagan administration with Nancy Reagan that did the Just Say No campaign. So do you guys have any questions? We're kind of like I'm at the end of the time limit that I was given. Any questions? I don't care if it's on meth, alcohol.
Like on the billboards? Well, there's, my mom told me to ask you.
Yes. No case numbers.
Sorry, because she owns a business behind ITC. My question is on white-collar crimes. What can be done to ensure compliance in government regulatory agencies such as the Guam Early Learning Council?
In terms of following the rules, they are using the government to not follow the rules or to misapply the rules?
So I
Okay, first of all, in the regulatory scheme, if there's government officials that are not following the law, usually there's like the supervisor, right? The idea to go above their head and to bring it before the, like if it's public health, regulating that, what area was that again?
So this is behind ITC. She owns the daycare.
Right, at the daycare area. The idea is to go above the head of the individuals that may be wronging her, and then to see if the relief can be done by the supervisors, the director. At some point, the Attorney General gets involved if it's not following the law. So I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so she put, when does incompetence become a legal matter in government?
Well, not following the law, it can be called incompetence, can be called, not following the law, breaching the law, violating the law. That is why the Attorney General exists, in order to try to ensure everybody follows the law. And the legislature specifically said the Attorney General shall go up against corrupt public officials. If you guys remember the governor, when she sent over that stuff to the Supreme Court, declaratory judgment said I wasn't doing our job and stuff like that.
Yes.
It got complicated into this. Remember, you're dealing with attorneys, so we deal with ethics, but who is our client? I will always say my client is the people that voted for me. My client is not a government official. My client is the government to the extent that they're stewards for you people. The government officials are not supposed to be the government in themselves. They're supposed to be servants of the public. Does anybody know what the Second Amendment was drafted around? The right to bear arms? Do you know what that was intended to do? The forefathers, the ones that, the framers of the Constitution?
Is it? I'm just guessing. So
Why do you have a right to bear arms? Part of that, but in 1776, why did they make it so important that it became the Second Amendment, right under the free speech? They said you have a right to carry a firearm. You have a right to bear arms. Why was that put in there?
she said to protect yourself, and is it even from like, let's say, guns or
Exactly.
cover-ups?
The idea of that was to protect, for the people to be protected from the government. That's why it's a joke whenever you talk to an English person. They say, oh, it's fine here. The government has all our guns. Well, your government was the one that we wanted to get rid of. So the idea was that if a government becomes the despot to the people, a government that should not be there, the people should have a firearm, the ability, the militia, the idea to get together and say, we're going to throw those guys out of office and we're going to use force to do it. That's what happened in the American Revolution, right? They threw the English out of the United States because they wanted to live by these different concepts, these different rules, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights. So that's a really high-level response to your question. But I mean, it's so important for me as an Attorney General that when I look at the government, I look at it from, and this is not supposed to be dramatic, but from the eyes of how would you like to be treated by that person in that way? Because I've been there for the 33 years that I've been an attorney, let alone the 58 years that I've been alive. I've seen how government officials have abused their authority, how when you go talk to somebody, it's like you're talking to a king or queen sort of thing.
Her last question, sorry, this is the last.
Uh-huh.
The latest advertised effort from DPHSS is the 311 hotline, which leads to full mailboxes and no one returning messages left on any available space. Is there any accountability for money spent on these wasted efforts?
Yeah, change the governor. No, but truly, look at who runs things. But really, look at who runs things. The most powerful person in our government right now is the one that controls your dollars. $1.3, $1.4 billion budget. 80% of it is controlled by one person. That person controls all the directors of public health, everything other than the Attorney General's office. The governor has a purview in, for the most part. I know Department of Education, there's certain areas that are walled off. But when in democracy, a person isn't serving you, and that's why it's a pet peeve. When that phone rings more than twice in our office, it irritates me, and I try to let the staff know that, because how would you like to be on the other end of that phone call? Child support, it's one of the greatest areas that people get pissed off at about, because I've seen it. I've represented the women that have to deal with all the problems, and then you're trying to get your child support, not getting it. What you're saying there is basically the public health area. Well, what do you do when the director doesn't want to do anything for you, or if our office isn't able to help out more?
Because she kept calling and calling, and like, I guess there was a like change in whatever organization she was calling, probably DPHS at Public Health, and they had told her both that, you know, they didn't receive anything, and she sent proof of, you know, she sent emails.
Excuses, right?
Yeah. And
So-
then they went on to say was like, you need to resend it again because we have a new director.
Right. You see, that's the type of runaround that we all don't like. We all don't like going to a voice messaging machine after you waited there. Even they do in the States, right? They make you wait, like, what is it? You have to dial all these things, and then finally when you get through, it tells you that, sorry, we're closed. And they don't even have a voice message sometimes. So it's kind of like, boom. So, 1966. I was born in 1966. My grandfather had all the properties. He had bought different properties in Agana. Governor Guerrero came in and condemned all the properties. It pissed the shit out of my grandfather. What he did, he literally got paid for a full-page ad in the newspaper and said what he thought about Governor Guerrero. In your situation, you don't think this governor is going to react? You don't think the governor reacted to our billboard?
So I'll tell my mom to do a full page on the newspaper.
I'm just saying to you, it was done 50 years ago by my grandfather. People still remember that. And he did it because the government took away something that he had worked decades to acquire, all these different properties, and then they just condemn everything. So when people are confronted with these things, what is it that Guam is very good at? It's when people talk against other people, when they see things. We're such a small community. Doing an ad campaign against a politician gets them to look, because they know they're going to be thrown out in the next election if it's an effective ad campaign.
Isn't it even true? Like even Trump said it. It backfired kind of. You work for, or what do you call it? Or no, I think it was Tom Homan. Something like
taxes.
Yeah, I'm a taxpayer. You work for me.
Right, you see, that's why when you're in a cushy job, remember COVID, all the private companies were closing down because they couldn't pay their people, because they relied upon, commerce and everything. And who was making the decision was the government closing everything down. You think any government employee lost their salary, no. That's what happens when you get into the government. You lose sight of the persons, because when you're in the private sector, you eat what you kill. I was in private practice. If you're not a good lawyer, if you don't get the clients, you're not going to pay the bills. Government has lost sight of that because we get to charge you things. When you go to DMV, we set the price for your car registrations, your taxes come to. That's the problem that your mother's facing. So that's the type of response. You want a direct response? Get a few people together, publish something, but make sure it's not defamatory. Well, government officials have a high level of things, but you state the facts and you state that this person isn't doing their job, you're not going to get sued for that. So, but that's why we did what we did on the homeless for the governor. Didn't say she's a bad woman. She's actually my relative, by the way. So, Leon Guerrero. But what the idea is that you make them do something by putting pressure. That's political pressure. Let's help our homeless. There is a solution. Round them up, get them all the help they need, and get off somebody's property. And if you do it again, you're going to get arrested. Trespassing. You give them that warning shot, get a job, and we can give them a job. There's ways to do it. Just ask the AG's office. We can structure it.
People are like, there's a lot, like, what do you call
What's your property? You want somebody on your property that just walks in there? You got private properties that are having the homeless camps. Then it's our property that they're sitting on the side of the road. That's government property. You don't have a right to just squat on some government property. Get the help we'll offer you, and if you go back there, you're going to get arrested. Simple as that. You want to be lazy? You're not going to be here. So, sorry.
No, it's okay.
Oh, I have a question.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on the drug and alcohol treatment here in Guam?
Again, I'm not the counselor, the main counselor. I know that it's an immense struggle. So we need social workers, we need social service providers. What do I think about the substance abuse treatment plans? They're not working. First of all, they're all complaining they're swamped. That's the first thing you hear from these people. But look at the data of what's happening to these people. You cannot treat them with compassion over realism. They need to face, you're going to die, and you either suck it up and fix your life, or that's it. And by the way, you want to hang out in the mall and ruin the tourism industry, or go to the panhandling, begging on the middle of our streets, you are breaking the law, and you're no better than the rest of us, and you will feel the consequences of it. They need to be shown a path to better their lives or a path to hell. And you guys know that. Changing your life only occurs when you suffer. That's why you're here. You're suffering. You're having to pay the bills. You're having to get up, get the credits, and graduate from these classes. What makes them any different than you? What's more scary is that all those guru housing that they're living in, first of all, they're having kids all over the place. When those kids get into the welfare system, they become the entitlement generation. You graduate a set of kids that their aspiration in life is to go to public health and to sign up for welfare benefits, or to have kids that we all have to pay for. It's not nice to say, but that's not how the United States was built. The United States was built, you have a family, you pay for that family. If you need some help, the government is there temporarily to help you. Other than that, if you don't want the help, you're going to be treated like everybody else. And if you're squatting on somebody's property, you get off of it, or you're going to go to jail for the consequence of trespassing. That's the way the system works. When we start allowing all this homelessness to occur around us, when we think it's acceptable, that's the first problem. And that's why the service providers need to wake up, see the problem, realize we're paying their salaries too. Not only are we giving them the ability to give benefits to everybody, which is our tax dollars, those of us that have to work, but you yourself, your salaries. Get out of your office, go to those intersections, pick up those homeless, take them to public health, vet them if they're actually poor or not, and get them a job. They called it welfare to work. Guess who started that? Not only did they do it in the 20s, but I mean, Bill Clinton, a Democrat, did it. During his administration, welfare to work. You get a certain amount of benefits for a certain period, and then you get cut off. But that's where the governor comes in and says, Department of Labor, go on Visitors Bureau, give them the money, and go, even for day labor. The whole idea of day labor. It's out there. The weekends, all these contracting guys, electricians, the masons, they get extra money and nobody touches it. And I'm for that. Don't get rev and tax involved. This is just how we do things. When you're at the flea market, nobody's got a license down there. I've seen those, was it rev and tax, swarm the whole flea market. You know, you're just trying to sell your damn, clothes and out, and I get a license for that? Are you kidding me? That's the realism of what you're talking about. When you're talking about the homeless, when you're talking about how to fix things, you just need to wake up and see the reality of what's going on out there. So, unless you guys had...
I have one more question.
Yeah.
I get so confused between the roles of you and Lou. So, just like point blank, you are the law, like the law part. She is, I don't know, because people are like, why can't Doug do this? And some people don't know because...
The governor actually she does enforce a certain part of the law.
Yeah.
Now, the criminal side, the Congress specifically said the Attorney General is the public prosecutor. That's the way the system works. In my humble opinion, and I do respect, she is our governor. So we give her the respect that is due because you selected her, we selected her as a governor. She is the team leader. I don't think she has an effective cabinet. Because an effective cabinet would be fixing the potholes, would be getting a Ganya swimming pool. I put my team in charge of it, that thing's fixed, or they're fired. Don't quit, any of you. So, but the idea is, you know, when you have a leader, the leader must lead. And if it requires, your job is dependent upon it, then do it. We were fixing those potholes 10 years ago in Macheche. We just got a bunch of villagers together. They had the compacting equipment. We all put the equipment together, a cement mixer. We fixed the area. Unfortunately, the whole road needed to be redone, but we fixed the main ones. That's the type of mentality the governor should start with the village mayors. You get a 4-man team of guys that know what they're doing, those potholes are gone. It's not that difficult to fix potholes. Just put concrete in it, but compact it properly. So, versus their excuses at DPW, oh, this is going to take, $2 million. We're going to have to ask for the grant. There's potholes out there. I can literally close my eyes and drive because I know where every pothole is. So,
I have one more.
yes.
How many DUIs would it take for deportation to take place?
Deportation is interesting, and it's an evolving concept now with the new administration in. I'm sure that Homeland Security ICE is very keen on deporting anyone that they can deport. DUIs, under the old system, when you're a non-US citizen, DUIs wouldn't get you deported, okay? But family violence will, under their equation. Some of it's kind of like you gotta ask the ICE people, but like 2 family violences could actually get you deported. They kind of add up some of this stuff. But definitely the higher ups, like criminal sexual conduct, rape, robbery, violent crimes, you could get quickly deported. We're doing it in the AG's office in conjunction with the police officers when those reports come in. But but it goes back to what we're talking about, the Constitution. When you are an American citizen, you have rights. And I'm in the group that if that's not a US citizen, I want my kids and my family to be protected by my tax dollars. Why are these people burdening us? They're guests. If you're a guest, you respect our laws. If you break our laws, then a big question. Okay? That's the idea. And by the way, I will say this, if you're talking about the Micronesian community, once those kids go through our education, they're just as good as any of us. It's just the problem with what the FSM, the United States needs to invest money, like the Catholics did here. Philippines and Guam, 500 years of Catholic education, Catholic religion, and bringing the Western world. That's why we're so different. FSM, they didn't do that. Chuk, they have no they're being educated up to 6th grade in a container. It doesn't take that much money. The delegate, the Congress needs to give them some money, set up a proper education system. They're as good as we are. Everybody in our area of the world, the islands, we're brothers and sisters, but different government, different locations, and the U.S. opened up the American Indians. What happened to the American Indians? That's what happened to us on Guam. Uneducated, no opportunities, no ability to understand our culture. They get pushed into the lower class, and then they get into alcoholism and all the problems that occur. So, guys, thank you again for allowing me to address you. If you guys have any future questions, we're very responsive on the emails, stuff like that. So. Oh, wait. Before that? Yes. No.
My dad just wanted to say you're doing a good job and keep it up.
Thank you. Thank you. It's the team. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
And I believe we have some goodies there. There's also a business card there if you guys want to work for our office.
Oh, let me put a shout out to all of you. We are hiring, okay? Please, we even have the clerk's positions. I would prefer to have the educated GCC, UOG, because you guys are able to produce, we are a law firm, but definitely, please turn your applications in.
Just ask, later about.
Yeah. In that, we have the QR code. Is it in the packets there? Each bag? And it's very short, guys, so it's very poignant on the questions. Once you guys send the resume in, we set up an interview.
Just want to thank you on my behalf, though, because you were my mom's attorney.
I know. I could tell the question. Yeah, just say hello to her. Thank you.
Yeah. You were my mom's attorney. She told me to make sure I thank you for it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so
All right. Thanks again, General, for
thank you, Major.
appreciate your presentation and your stuff.
You're very welcome. Thank you. Thank you, Major.
Thanks, man. Thanks for coming. Photo opportunity to fund with the whole class?
Sure.
All right.